Hello again. Thanks for joining me on my drive home today. There we go. Autopilot is engaged. So if you had seen the last video I had posted, we saw that Autopilot performed very well on local roads, except for points on the road where there was a sharp curve. So the plan today is to take the same route, and wherever Autopilot messes up, turn the car back around and go over that same area, obviously in the opposite direction, heading the opposite direction, just to see how Autopilot would behave. In the few days since the last video that I posted, I have driven a considerable amount using the latest iteration of 8.1, and I have to say I remain astonished at how much the Autopilot system has improved relative to the last. Let me go ahead and turn Autopilot off since we're approaching a red light. But how much Autopilot has improved relative to the last couple of iterations. I'm also really surprised about the negative posts on some of the online Tesla owners forums. Let me go ahead and engage Autopilot. There we go. So approaching a modest curve, let's see how Autopilot does. Pretty good, as you just saw. It was very smooth. No hesitation whatsoever. We're approaching another modest curve. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm still in the lane. Things are looking pretty good so far. So I was just saying, I'm really surprised about how much some people are complaining about how, in their own words, poorly Autopilot handles itself. And I've posted to the forums that, look, based on my experience, it's clear that your mileage may vary. And it's just not just my experience. I mean, there are people on these forums that have the same, or have had the same experience as I have had, where, Autopilot has performed exceptionally well, and in certain instances, it does meet the I guess yet to be defined silky smooth criteria. So I mean, silky smooth is defined by each driver, I guess. I personally define silky smooth as what you're seeing right now. It handles curves well, stays in its lane, of course, does not hesitate. Now, is the system perfect? Just like I had mentioned in the last video, no, it's not perfect, not by a stretch. But it has definitely come pretty far. Now here's a pretty sharp curve. The car slowed down, which I like. I just went over the double line. Oh, I am in the... Okay. So it's interesting. It took me into the opposite lane, which is obviously not good. Let me go ahead and re-engage Autopilot. And it's interesting because Autopilot had exhibited the exact same behavior a few days ago in that same stretch, that same curve, which tells me a couple things. Number one, the artificial intelligence component of this car has not yet kicked in, because it hasn't taught itself that, look, you screwed up last time in this area, something went awry, and it didn't teach itself to mimic what I would have done. So that's that. Obviously, the AI has not kicked in. So let's go back. I want to go back along that curve as soon as I can take a turn. And I want to see how Autopilot fares going the opposite direction. So let's see, first chance I get, I'd like to turn back around. Okay, here we go, approaching another curve. Let's see how we do. My hands are on the wheel, especially because there's oncoming traffic, and the car really has slowed down, but it maintained its lane. It came uncomfortably close to the double solid yellow line, but it slowed down appropriately, and it stuck in its lane, which wow, I gotta say I'm happy to have seen that. All right, let me take this opportunity to turn around. All right, let's test that again. So we're gonna test this curve coming up ahead. Okay, now we're on autopilot. The speed limit is 35. I've got it set on, it's going on 39. Okay, it's slowed down, which is good. We slowed down to about 30 miles per hour. So far, so good. I'm a little nervous here. It's still autopilot handling the curve. Wow, excellent. So, I'm really surprised I didn't have to take over on that curve. The slowing down process was, it felt a little artificial in the sense that it wasn't as smooth as I would have slowed down. That tells me a couple of things. That tells me that, well, first, again, to reiterate, the AI has not kicked in. And number two, to reiterate the same point I made in the last video, not all cameras are functioning. And the reason why I say that is because if the long-range camera had been turned on, it ought to have registered that the road was curving, or was going to curve just 40 yards down. That also, and interestingly, it also tells me that autopilot is not solely or significantly relying on GPS, because even according to GPS, I mean, let's say hypothetically, if the autopilot was relying heavily on the GPS, it ought to have slowed down a little bit sooner than it did. So assuming that autopilot is relying only on one of the forward-facing cameras and on the ultrasonic sensors, I gotta say, it handled that curve pretty well. All right, so we're doing about 30 miles per hour, and we are approaching the curve up ahead, the sharp curve that for some reason it causes the autopilot behavior to undergo a seizure of sorts, and it pulls the car into the oncoming traffic lane. So okay, this is interesting. It slowed down, maintaining its lane. It's doing really well, actually. Wow, that's really interesting. You know, I wonder if it handled that curve by itself beautifully, as you just saw, because it was going around 32 miles per hour, which is not that fast, thanks to the car that was in front of me. Wow, I gotta say, that's really interesting. So going this direction, the car didn't spaz at all. Going the opposite direction, it did spaz. So let's do this. Let's turn back around and let's hit that curve again and see how we do. Well, I'm really interested to see what happens now. All right, so let's try to engage autopilot as soon as it's available, and here we go. It's available. Alright, the speed limit reads 25, so let's slow it down to 32. Just alright, 30. So we're going 30, and let's see what happens. This should be interesting. So both my hands are on the wheel. Okay, the car slowed down, which is great. And oh no, it was taking me into the oncoming lane. I had to take over. As you saw, there was a car coming, so man, that's interesting and disappointing and interesting. I have no explanation for that. That's really weird. Boy, that was really odd. Yeah, I'm really tempted to actually turn back around and see how it goes. But let's see, there's a car behind me, so I can't exactly do that just yet. Well, I gotta say, that was very interesting. Let me put it back in autopilot, so at least it adds further evidence that autopilot indeed does very well. Another complaint that some owners have experienced or have reported is either on the highway or on local roads, their autopilot exhibits the quote-unquote ping pong effect, where the car kind of goes back and forth in the lane. I really haven't experienced that. I've been paying attention for it, and once in a rare while, sure, I've seen the steering wheel kind of ever so slightly go back and forth, but not in a way where it makes the car sway back and forth. I have not experienced that. Alright, here we go. We're approaching another curve. Let's see what happens here. The car is slowing down by itself, which is great. It is hugging the double solid yellow line on the left, which I don't like, but at least it's maintaining the lane, which is excellent. It also slowed down appropriately, which is something I'm happy about. But a couple of times it touched the double yellow solid marker on the left. So, is it perfect? No, but did it hold the lane? Yeah, so that was great. And also, it slowed down appropriately, which is great. As you can see, the weather conditions are perfect. It's a beautiful day, 86 degrees outside. Here are some cones that are on the side of the road. Okay, that's interesting. It did not make the car swerve. Huh. On one hand, it's good that that cone on the side of the road didn't make the car swerve, but on the other hand, I noticed that the car, or the autopilot, didn't move the car even slightly towards the left, away from the cone. So, I'm not sure how to interpret that one. Overall, you can see the car is handling very nicely, maintaining the lane, no swerving, no ping pong effect. Again, the system is not perfect. You have to pay attention at all times, and it still has its quirks. As oh, there you go. So something triggered the autopilot right there, where it for about a second, it hesitated towards the left and then corrected itself. So speaking of quirks, that was just yet another example of a quirk that autopilot has. So and there are different kinds of quirks. There are some quirks that'll get you killed, like what happened on that sharp curve where you know, my Model X went into the oncoming traffic lane. And then there are quirks that that need to be ironed out, of course, but that aren't going to kill you, like where in the instance where it kind of hugged the double solid yellow lane marker, or just a moment ago where it kind of hesitated towards the left and then corrected itself. So, you know, those kinds of quirks I can live with, but it's the major quirks like, oh, see, so I didn't like that. Autopilot did not slow down when it should have slowed down for that car that was that just made a right turn. As a human, obviously, I would have registered that the guy or the gal in front of me was slowing down and had pushed on their brake pedal, as indicated by their rear lights turning on, and I would have used regenerative braking to slow the car down. Autopilot did not sense that, did not register that the person ahead of me had pushed the brake pedal. It did not, the cameras did not register the red tail lights turning on, and for some reason even the ultrasonics didn't stop the car until we were really close to the car. I didn't feel like I was going to crash into the car, but it cut it awfully close, to the point where my foot was definitely hovering over the brake pedal, ready to engage the brakes. So that, you can chalk that up to being another quirk that needs to be ironed out with autopilot. I have a feeling, I'm not too concerned about those kinds of quirks. I have a feeling that things are going to significantly improve when Tesla has turned on all the cameras, all 8 cameras. And I suppose they're going to do that once they have validated whatever data that they're collecting. So I'm not concerned about the future of this autopilot suite. I'm quite hopeful. I remain optimistic. In the meanwhile, as much as I enjoy using autopilot, and as much as it takes stress out of driving, it should be clear to you, after having watched my videos or whoever else you follow or read up on, that you cannot stay distracted while autopilot is engaged. Please don't trust your life and the life of fellow motorists to the autopilot system, at least not yet. I mean, I do foresee that time coming down the road, but for everyone's sake, if you're a Tesla owner and you're watching this, yeah, do yourself, your family, and your fellow motorists a favor and stay engaged at all times. Cannot emphasize that enough. Now, this is interesting. You can see there's a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit sign, and Model X slowed down, thinking it's showing that it's a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. Okay, I stand corrected. So now the computer is registering once again that the speed limit on this road, on this segment, is in fact 35 miles per hour. So it did correct itself. I'm still convinced, by the way, that the cameras are not acting on, I'm not saying they're not registering, but they are not acting on the speed limit signs. And I make that distinction because I have a feeling they may be registering them, and every time they register the speed limit signs or whatever other signs, they are, I feel that they are accumulating that data set, But with this the most recent iteration of 8.1 autopilot software, Tesla has not yet allowed the software suite to, I guess, act on road signs. So looking forward to that day. As I've mentioned before, I think it's going to be super awesome when you can get in your car. And of course you'll still need to pay attention before we all go full self-driving, but I think it'll be great where you can just get in your car, and even though you have to pay attention, the car will start, stop, register, stop lights, yellow, green, red lights, speed limit signs. I'm really looking forward to that day. I think it's going to be fantastic when that actually happens. Just to remind you, by the way, this whole time it's autopilot that's driving. I just have my hands on the wheel and my my right foot at the ready in case I have to hit the brakes, but this is autopilot all the way. And you can see here, even where the road kind of shifts, autopilot is handling it very well. There's no hesitation, no ping-ponging. Now we're approaching a curve, so let's see what happens. The speed limit's 25. Tesla, or Model X, just registered the speed limit, so it slowed me down to about 30. Now let's see what happens on this curve. So I slowed down a good amount. As you can see, I am hugging and touching the double lane marker on the left, and I had to take over because it was taking me over the double solid line. So not happy about that. And again, I was going about 25 miles per hour initially, and it slowed me down to, I believe, about 12 miles per hour. Let's see if I can turn back around and take that curve on again using autopilot. I'm really curious to see how it's going to handle it. In the meanwhile, let's turn autopilot back on again. Wow, what a view. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and engage autopilot as soon as it becomes available. And here we go. So the speed limit on this stretch of road is 35, and I am going 35. Let's up it to about 36 miles per hour, 37 miles per hour. And let's see what happens when we approach that curve. Again, the sharp curve that we're about to approach, that I just had to take over on a moment ago, I was going about 18 miles per hour, no, about 12 miles per hour, and the car had taken me into the oncoming traffic lane, or was about to take me, and I had to grip the steering wheel. Alright, so the car has slowed down to 30 miles per hour. We're approaching the curve, 29 miles per hour. Okay, it hit the brake there. Oh, and autopilot turned itself off. So I guess autopilot got nervous there on that curve, didn't feel confident in handling it by itself. and it disengaged, which is good, I guess. I mean, I suppose it's better that it disengages, I guess, than take me head on into oncoming traffic. Let's take that curve on again. Okay, so speed limit is 25. I'm going 30. We're approaching the curve. Let's see what happens. Okay, now we hit the brake, or we at least we slowed down. We're about 19 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour, still in the lane. Up, now we're hitting the double solid yellow line on the left, and nope, I had to take over. So we started going into the or onto the oncoming traffic lane, so I had to take over right there. Just turned autopilot back on. So there you go. Overall, we've reaffirmed that basically, you know, autopilot handles wonderfully on local roads, at least in my experience. It maintains its lane nicely. It handles modest curves nicely. There are some quirks, major and minor. The major quirks I've experienced are only on very sharply curved roads, and by major curve or major quirk, I define a major quirk as a quirk or an error that can injure or kill me or the oncoming motorist. So thus far, the only major quirk happens when autopilot encounters a sharp curve. Other than that, no major quirks thus far on this stretch of road, which is wonderful. Minor quirks, there have been a couple. But again, I personally define a minor quirk as a deviation in autopilot handling, deviation from how a human would handle the car in a manner that would not either kill myself, the occupant, or another motorist. All right, here we go. Speed limit is going down to 25. We're approaching a curve. Let's see how autopilot handles this curve. I have slowed down. I am hugging the left double A marker, and okay, autopilot turned itself off. So that's interesting. I guess autopilot got scared or felt that it could not handle that curve, and alerted me to take over immediately and shut itself off. And I took over, obviously. So we're back on autopilot. Let's see how it handles these modest curves. Lovely. Now there's a gentleman watering or hosing down the side of the road, and all right. Yeah, again, when it comes to things like that, you know, a person on the side of the road or a bicyclist, I really wish the system was smart enough to maintain the lane, but have a preference for the left side of the lane, you know, so it gives maximum amount of space to whatever obstruction is on the right hand side, be it a person standing, walking, or a bicyclist. We're still on autopilot, by the way. I am at the ready, but I am not driving. It's autopilot doing all the work. Oh, here's a quirk, major one, that just took me into oncoming traffic, the oncoming traffic lane, so not good. I'm gonna try to engage autopilot once again whenever I get a chance. Okay, it's available, so here we go. Let's see how it handles this curve. It slowed down appropriately, which is good. It's very cautious. Actually, it was very cautious handling that curve. It handled it pretty well, I would say. Interesting, I just passed up Mar-a-Lago. I'm going to turn back around and I want to see how we do on that curve one more time. I'm going to turn autopilot off. Alright, let's see what happens. Autopilot is engaged, doing about 33 miles per hour. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we're approaching the curve, and nope, I had to take over. There is no way autopilot was going to handle that curve. Yeah, there was absolutely no way it was going to handle that curve. So again, that's another illustration of, or another example of why you need to be attentive when you're on autopilot. It's an absolute must. That beep you just heard was me trying to engage autopilot when it's not available. Okay, it's available now, so we're back on autopilot. So far, no hesitation through that miniature construction zone, which was great. Did fairly well on that stint of bridge where there were no lane markers and it was just steel. Still on autopilot, and you just saw it's maintaining the lane even through the lane shifts very nicely. Here we go, another lane shift, and it stayed in the lane. Turned autopilot off since we're approaching a red light. And before I cap this video off, I wanted to just do a stint on the highway to show you guys how it fares. I don't remember if we did much highway driving during the last drive, but let's see how it does today. also, as a side note, I've gotten a bunch of requests to give my take on the Model 3 that's just been released. Not sure exactly why anyone would want to hear my thoughts on Model 3, since I'm not a reservation holder. But I suppose if I get enough of those requests, I might do one. Alright. Anyways, let's see. About to approach the highway, hopefully, pretty soon. Just turned autopilot back on. Alright, initially, that was interesting. So initially, it ever so slightly kind of was heading in the towards the left turn lane only lane, but then it immediately corrected itself. It just handled it very well during the couple of lane shifts to maintain the lane. Very nicely done. Happy about that. Again, I want to point out to you, there is no ping-ponging. I just turned autopilot off because I need to get into the left turning lane here so we can head on the highway just up ahead. But overall, since I am yapping, my basic thoughts about the Model 3, I think it's excellent. I just wish that they had the capacity to put out more cars, as is everyone else, obviously, especially the folks who are reservation holders. Safety-wise, I'm sure if you are a Tesla enthusiast, or even if you're not an enthusiast per se, but if you had seen the video feed live, or you saw the subsequent recordings on YouTube about how safe the car is, you know, there's a side-by-side comparison with one of the Volvos, and how on a side impact it was amazing how little the Model 3 gave in. I thought it was just, man, really great safety wise. So anyways, let's get on the highway and let's test autopilot out. Okay, so we've got autopilot engaged. I just did a lane change on autopilot. You saw how smooth it was. Another lane change. Perfectly smooth. Perfect execution. Let me point out to you, by the way, there is no ping-ponging on the highway. Alright, so let's do another lane change. Really smooth. So anyways, I think we'll wrap it up here. If you watched this video all the way to the end, wow, I gotta say, thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, I guess this must be my 7th or 8th video, so I guess based on the requests I've been getting, I suppose I'll continue making videos based on people's interests in the Autopilot suite, software suite, and Tesla and Model X. So yeah, if you like what you're seeing, then please subscribe and comment in the comment section below. It's really awesome to hear from people from different parts of the world. So thanks for watching again. Take care. Till next time. Bye-bye.